Tomb Raider released in 2013 and promised a whole new look on the action-adventure series that influenced so many classic adventure games. After the initial success, 1 year later, a definitive edition was released on PS4. Today, that is what we are going to be reviewing. So before we get into the actual review, let's take a quick look back at how Lara Croft's story began. In 1996, Tomb Raider was first released, and it quickly became a very popular game. I never have, and never really want to, play the original games, but they are, of course, pretty outdated looking, and they also have some questionable themes and perspectives. Anyways, as the years went on, the series started to lose steam, and before 2013, the series was practically forgotten, except for a few failed reboots. Now, when the game was first revealed, the developers urged people to forget all they knew about the series, as this was going to be a lot different, and based on what I've heard, it sure was. Instead of the original's platforming aspects, Tomb Raider Definitive Edition focuses a lot more on action. It is definitely the most movie-like game I have ever played, although I do take into account I've never played any Uncharted games. The action is the main appeal of the game, and it is for sure a good quality. The unique set pieces paired with the mostly stunning graphics add up to create a very exhilarating experience. This game never stops with the action, unless you purposely choose to stop. The pacing is very fast, which is good and bad. Good as in you never really feel bored of anything, but bad as in it goes very quickly. Part of that is because the game is relatively short, with only about a 10-hour runtime if you don't do tons of the side objectives. But the exciting experience does make up for that short time. Anyways, let's discuss what is probably the most important part of the game, the actual gameplay. So with action-adventure games like these, I always tend to feel like the gameplay isn't that great, or there isn't even much of it. Tomb Raider does its job by getting rid of both of these complaints. Well, not the second one entirely, but we'll get to that later. While I did say the action was great, the gameplay was even better in my opinion. Gameplay usually consists of one of three things: traversing around the world, solving puzzles, and shooting bad guys. Traversing around the world is pretty fun, as the controls are almost entirely well thought out. But by the end, climbing and running started to get a little boring. Puzzles are also alright, but I must say that I was surprised at the lack of them. In the main story, puzzles were actually pretty uncommon, and in the overworld, the only puzzles with a classic how to get to that one cliff style. The only other places that held puzzles were the optional tombs, which were, in my opinion, a very big disappointment. First of all, there's only around 10, which seems dumb for a game literally called Tomb Raider, and the ones that do exist are super short. Each of them only holds about one room with one puzzle to solve, and that's it. I was expecting something like a dungeon from Zelda with all sorts of different rooms and puzzles to solve, but nope. And furthermore, the puzzles weren't even hard. I swear, only one puzzle in the entire game had me stumped, and it even wasn't that hard once I figured it out. Overall, the puzzle aspect of this game was really one of the only letdowns. Back to the topic of gameplay. Let's talk about the shooting. The guns in this game are pretty great. Now don't get me wrong, they don't feel or act very real, but man, they are fun to use. You only have 5 main weapons to choose from, which include the bow, climbing axe as the only melee weapon, the rifle, pistol, and shotgun. While the bow and climbing axe are alright, I never really found myself using them because of how good the guns were. They feel so smooth, and you can pretty much use all the ammo you want, as it's very easy to find, as long as you have one certain ability. It was super satisfying to plow through hordes of people, spraying bullets everywhere. By the end, you even get some finisher moves that are both cool and brutal. Apart from the guns, the only other thing I found myself using in combat was this special dodge move that lets you do a finisher on an enemy if you dodge their attack just at the right moment. If you couldn't already tell from what I was just saying, the combat is not the most challenging. Even the perfect timing dodge thing is pretty lenient, and if you mess up, there's really no punishment, you just try again. With the abundance of ammo, I rarely found myself dying, and I really never got stuck at one particular point. Because I liked the gameplay so much, I really didn't mind this, but if you're looking for a challenge, definitely turn up the difficulty. So moving on to the next topic, let's discuss the graphics. For the most part, I thought this game was pretty beautiful, especially the different maps. Characters and their movements also seemed good, but there was some short animations that just didn't feel right. Like the one where Laura opens up a chest after beating a tomb. There's just something with that I didn't like. Now, with these updated graphics, I should warn you that Tomb Raider is a very graphic game. Obviously, shooting people makes some blood spurt out, but they never lose limbs or have their heads exploded like in Resident Evil 2. This is pretty all your basic action stuff, but it's the death animations that really got me shaken up. They're just so awful and realistic. For example, take a look at this. Wasn't that just awful? They always come out of nowhere, and I was extremely happy when the screen just faded black when I died. Pretty much the last main thing to talk about is the story. It goes pretty much like this. Laura is searching for a mysterious island that her father was looking for, and on the way to it, her ship crashes into an island. She ends up split up from the rest of her crew, and it's her job to go and find them. Along the way, they come across this messed up civilization of people who end up taking Laura's best friend for apparently random reasons. It's revealed later. Anyways, the plot is nothing over the top, but nothing bad either. Towards the end, it gets a little questionable, but it didn't really bother me much. Although one thing that did bother me was the characters. I cared about literally no one in this game. Almost the entire game is about saving this one person, but I really didn't have any motivation to actually want to save them. The gameplay was really the only thing that kept me hooked. Multiple characters die, and I really feel no emotion for them. Even Laura herself, who is by far the best, but by no means good. The only interesting thing is seeing how she grows as a survivor throughout the game. While we're on the topic of bad things, I'm afraid the multiplayer also falls under this category. Like many games around its time, the multiplayer was pretty much just thrown in there to appeal to everyone who couldn't get enough of online games. It really does suck though. The modes are boring, and even if you like them, have fun waiting half an hour to find a match. On a more positive note, this game has a very enjoyable upgrading system. You can upgrade the weapons to do more damage and hold more ammo, all of the basic stuff. And you can also unlock special abilities for Laura as you level up. Both leveling up and collecting resources to upgrade weapons came pretty naturally. By the end of the game, I had both almost fully upgraded, and it would be very easy to go back and finish upgrading them if I really wanted to. Really the only painfully grindy part of this game is the collectibles, which despite what I literally just said, still aren't that bad. There's 4 different kinds, and each one is relatively unique. There's documents that you can read to learn some lore behind the island, and artifacts from long ago. There's also GPS caches, which are completely useless, and challenges, which are pretty much the same thing as finding things in the overworld, only slightly harder as they aren't marked on the map. Going back to things that suck, the game did unfortunately crash on me quite a bit, mainly during the loud action scenes and the multiplayer. One slightly weird complaint I have is with the action. Now, I'm really not sure how to put this, but it's almost like the transition from action to gameplay really sucks. There were multiple moments where I thought I was moving Laura, only to realize it was actually a cutscene, and vice versa as well. I died a few times because I wasn't expecting to actually have to move, which is kind of my fault, but still. And one final thing that did make this game really annoying was the Platinum Trophy. 2 words. Multiplayer trophies. I didn't get the Platinum Trophy, and I really don't want to. Overall, despite its multiple smaller flaws, I did have a great time with Tomb Raider, and I'm looking forward to playing the sequels. I would give it a B+. Thanks to all of you guys for watching, and please subscribe if you enjoyed the video. I hope to see you all again in another one of my videos. Bye.